It's deja vu at the Riverside, isn't it? The low block turns up and Carrick and the team just can't get past it. What needs to change? Welcome back to Where Boro Walk. It is 20 minutes of Middlesbrough chat, and on this week's episode we are talking about just how can we break that low block, the rumour mill around Ben Doak and other Middlesbrough rumours around transfer window signings, looking ahead to the Blackburn game and the FA Cup preview. Could Boro fans care less this year about the FA Cup? And we'll ask each of these team members here for one name of the player they desperately would love to see in a Boro shirt by the end of the month. First of all, before we get to all of that, thank you so much for all the support we've had over 2020-24. We loved reading all your comments. If you can drop us a subscribe if you haven't yet done so, that would be massively, massively appreciated. Our target is 100 by the end of the month, so help us get there. We would massively appreciate all of that. Right, let's just jump straight into the discussion points, shall we then? Sean, let's talk about the Cardiff game first, because that's the most recent one. Happy New Year to you, but it feels like the same conversations we had in October when we've had similar teams like Cardiff visit. Just what needs to change?
I don't know. As you say, we go in cycles where we seem to turn up for the big games and we're up for it and we look like we belong in that kind of top company. And then we face teams that we expect and should roll over. And it just doesn't happen. I don't know if it's a mentality thing. I don't know if it's there's been suggestions that the crowd has been mixed in there. Maybe that's an issue as well. I'm not sure, but there is a gap developing, between these top two or three clubs, and we really need to solidify our position in the playoffs now, I think.
Sunderland are now in the race, but if we count up the amount of draws you've had and the amount of chances and XG in games, someone's calculated that you should be on the same points as Sunderland. So this should be a 5-horse race instead of a 4-horse race. If you take the whole game as an example of that, we know you won, but it was a struggle against a dogged Hull side. What tactically or personnel-wise does he need to start getting right in the second half of the season? Because there's going to be more games like that Hull game, and it's great that you scored, but if you're not careful, you're in a dogfight for the position that you're in, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. I think performance-wise, I don't actually think things have been too bad, but I think it's a personnel thing where we're relying too much on Ben Doak at the moment, and when he's not on form, the rest of the team isn't. I think it's the same with Azaz as well. I think he's been off it the last couple of games. We need to find a way. I've been saying it for so many months now. We need to find a way to beat these teams that are at the bottom of the league and they're scrapping for their lives, scrapping for a point, when we should be aiming to win these games. And we've drawn the last 4 out of 5, when we really should be. Now we should be gaining momentum to try and push on to the best teams in the league, but it's just not happening.
Cheers for that, Will. Do you think the Ben Doak's rumour situation, which we'll come on to in a minute, is affecting him?
Potentially. I mean, I think he's come out and said that he's enjoying his football at Middlesbrough, and I think it is the best place for him to be. He gets on the ball so much and he's making lots of chances. Of course, the prospect of playing Premier League football at so young is, he's going to want that. But I think he just needs some level-headed heads round him and just tell him that he needs to focus on getting Boro to the Prem.
Okay. I dread bringing this next question up, Jonathan, but I'll come to you and ask it. Sheffield Wednesday game.
Yeah.
You were there. I mean, at 3-1, were you still reasonably confident that you'd have this in the bag, or did you at that point go, this is what Boro do?
Yeah, conceding 3. Well, we've done it a few times, haven't we? So you know what? We went for a pint at half time, and at 3-0 up, everything was good. And Sheffield Wednesday didn't even have a look in, and we said, you know what? We don't think it's a done deal yet, just because of our previous history. And yeah, when you concede 1, you just saw the momentum swing, and I've never seen a 15 minutes like it. I mean, 3 conceded, keeper goes off injured, red card for Rav van den Berg. And I'd say the rest of even though we were unbeaten for the festive period, there was like a hangover for that game that certainly went into Burnley, and the relief that you could see when they scored against Hull was, I think, as much to do with the Sheffield Wednesday situation as it was that they won a game, you know. So it's it kind of sums it up perfectly. Fantastic, brilliant, and then oh my God, what the hell was that?
Defensively, Craig, you've looked sharp and you were defensively great against Burnley. But who was to blame for that second half performance against Wednesday for you?
To be honest, they just didn't come out in the second half. There was no application, no endeavour. That on about 46 minutes, Lath went clear through, and he should have squared the ball to Ben Doak, and he didn't. And he tried to take the defender on when Ben Doak was free to an open goal, and 30 seconds later, they went and scored, and then scored again. And so if Lath had passed that 4-0 up, you'd have thought it's done. But we came out in the first 2 minutes. You could see that they'd had a rocket, and you could see that he changed some things because they were buzzing around us and we couldn't go. And it's the same problem when a team kind of comes at us. Our midfield just isn't strong enough at the minute, and they're kind of straight onto our back two, the two centre-backs, and we just didn't get a foot. To be honest, I was kind of impressed that we clung on for a point, because that 70 minutes I thought we can't hang on to this. The way we were playing, they'd knocked the wind out of our sails, down to 10 men. I mean, Glover's a good goalkeeper, so I mean the substitute in the goalkeeper I wasn't too concerned about, although Solbrin had been having a good game. But yeah, I was pleased that we ended up with a point, really.
All right, then let's look at some transfer rumours. Then there's loads, of course, around. Let's talk about the players potentially going out. We'll start with Lath. Sean, we're here again. Of course, it was that when he went to Cardiff away last season, when there was all that interest from Ipswich and so on. And here we are again. Do you actually think he's going to move this time?
It's going to be a testing period. I think we saw his head turned a little bit in the last window, and I think it's inevitable. Goal scorers are difficult to come by, and you know he does hit those purple patches, and I think he might catch a few admiring glances from some of the Premier League sides. Hopefully, we can keep hold of him, and hopefully we can get Conway back as well. But yeah, I do worry about the outgoings, and I've since heard as well that Doak, I think Palace will come in with a heavier bid as well, so something else that we've got to keep an eye on.
So you could finish January, Will, without Doak and Lath, and that would just, I think, probably spell a bit of a disaster, wouldn't you? Because without those two, you'd like to think your creativity is going to dry up a bit.
Yeah, I think if we did lose, sorry, did you say Will? Sorry.
Yeah, I did say Will. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, man.
I think if we did lose those two, I think the season might just go a bit flat. I think it'd be difficult to replace those two. I'm not sure what they've done behind the scenes, if they found some replacements. I'm not sure if there are any rumours yet. I saw something about Ryan Kent, maybe. Not so sure about that. But I think if they're keen to make money, I think why not have a look at seeing who wants Hackney. I think that now might be a really good time to invest in a young player who's, for me, he's not actually been on it recently. Of course, he's a good player and he's a young player and he's got potential. But I think if they're actually looking for money instead of just trying to, sell Lath or Doak, then have a look at him.
Okay. The whole championship is after Louis Barry. Jonathan, now you and Villa are good friends, of course, after Morgan Rogers. So do you suspect potentially that there's going to be a conversation going to be had between you two clubs?
Yeah, I got to say, I listened to Kieran Scott when he gets interviewed, and I like the fella. And I think if we're in for him, then I think we'll have a very strong chance of getting him, because I think the way Scott talks and the way Carrick and Woodgate talk, it seems to persuade players. But you know what? We've got 3 left backs, and left back's still a problem for us. And I can't see us signing another left back. But maybe if we get a left winger, that might take a bit of pressure, kind of perversely, off the left back. So Yeah, I wouldn't be against that. As good as Bergzog's doing, I must say, I've really warmed to him a lot this season. But I wouldn't mind seeing Louis Barry come along, and if he can add to the goals and take the limelight away from Doak a little bit, then all's well and good, I think.
Okay. All right, we'll come back to you in a minute for your who you each would like to see signed. Let's carry on then looking at the previous FA Cup this weekend, Craig. Without any disrespect to the FA Cup or to Middlesbrough, could you care less about this year, the FA Cup?
A month ago I did, and the state of us now, I would quite happily just give them a bye. I think we need to get players back fit, and rather than risking another injury to another key player, we haven't got a midfield now. We need Morris or Johnny Howson back, really, because Balassa's not really doing it in there. So yeah, my priority is changing to let's just keep in the playoffs.
I'll ask you all, but sure, maybe you can kick off with the conversation. Why haven't Boro had, for the size of the club you are and your history and your pedigree, why haven't you had more of a love interest with the FA Cup? Certainly in recent years. I mean, we know, of course, about the final with Bolton and Chelsea back in the day. But if you look recently, third round exit to Villa, third round exit to Brighton, third round exit to Brentford, third round exit to Tottenham. I mean, you've had some stinking draws, isn't it? But then you've also had, we don't want to bring up Newport County, do we, from 2019? But what do you put it down to, the fact that we haven't seen Boro really feature too much, in the later rounds in the last sort of 10, 15 years?
I think, in fairness, like you said there, I think some of the draws have been unkind, and we have had some really memorable nights in the FA Cup. I remember beating Man City 2-0. I think Bamford and Kike, that was a really, really great day. I think we had a good match against Tottenham where obviously Coburn came on and stuff like that. I think there are still moments in the FA Cup and indeed the League Cup where we get up for it. We've just not really had a favourable draw. But going back to, I've made a bit of a U-turn. I'm really not interested in the FA Cup before, but I think there's quite a few players on the fringe there who could do with getting a bit of confidence. The likes of Hamilton, likes of maybe Gilbert and Force even coming back. I think it might be an opportunity for us to get some of those fringe players that we might have to call upon given our record with injuries. Maybe we can get a bit of confidence instilled in the players that are on the fringes there.
Okay. Will, do you expect there to be a second string against Blackburn then?
I'd like to hope so, yeah. As Sean mentioned, the likes of Gilbert and Hamilton. Hamilton's barely featured. It's a strange one, that I think. He's clearly not up to it. But, yeah, I mean, Isaiah Jones, get him 90 minutes maybe. Even the likes of Riley McGree, who I think's been off it the last few weeks, and he's kind of lost his place to Bergzorg. It could be a sort of last sort of game for some players in their future for Boro. But I still like us to go strong, win the game and potentially get a good away draw for the fans to go to.
Yeah. Cheers, Will. Cheers, Sean. Jonathan, does it help you playing Blackburn? I mean, their fans are very, very much the same. They find themselves in the same playoff. Well, they're fighting for the same playoff positions that you want. They could care less about the FA Cup too. So, does that help that you're not playing against a side that is going to be up for it?
I guess so. Look, you obviously you don't want to lose, and you want to go through because you just keep some kind of momentum. Maybe it's some kind of spark, and maybe it could be the thing that captures the imagination a little bit. You just need one big tie, one big draw in the cup, and suddenly the FA Cup's all glory again. And I've been around long enough to remember, and I'm sure there's a stat about this that outside the top six, I think Boro had one of the best cup records. Maybe not the FA Cup, but across all the cups outside the top six for years. And it's only really the last kind of 10 years that we've kind of fallen away a bit. But think of Chelsea semi-final. Okay, second leg not so good, but first leg brilliant. And like you say, the Tottenham game a couple of seasons ago, that captures the crowd's imagination and gets them going. So I'm not afraid of a cup run, but you're right. We don't need to be playing our full-strength team on Saturday. We need to be protecting the players and getting a few lads some minutes on the pitch.
Okay, all right. In the comments below, let us know what you think about the FA Cup. Could you care less about it for this particular season? And finally, this week, then we're asking you for your your names that you've been reading the papers or you've heard about that you would love to see in a Boro shirt. Craig, can we start with you? Anybody that you've read about or you've heard about that you'd love to see Mr. Gibson get out his paycheck for?
Yeah, well, you mentioned Aston Villa. I'd like us to go into for the Phalange, who was at Hull last season. He was amazing last year for Hull. I remember him tearing the Championship up the second half of the season, and he's went to Villa. And I know he's had about 10 appearances, but he's not kind of like a regular in the squad. And obviously, our relationship with Villa is positive, so I would like him to come and add a little bit of an attacking option. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You did great with Hull last year. He scored some amazing goals as well. Good shout, Craig. Sorry, Sean.
Well, I've got a couple of pie in the sky ones, as we all probably do. And as the lads said, we could do with a left back. I'd love someone like Sessignon or maybe Kieran Tierney, but I can't really see it coming off. One person I would have a look at is Lewis O'Brien, who's now back with Forest. I think he was on loan in the US. And when we had him last season or season before, I think he provided quite a lot of energy and quite a lot of buzz, and we really missed that bite in midfield. We just look a bit soft in there at the minute, so I'd actually welcome someone like him back in.
Okay, some good shouts here. Will?
Given our goalkeeping crisis, not sure when Dieng's back or what's even happening with him, and then Bryn out. We've always struggled to score goals against him, but Victor Johansson at Stoke, I know they probably would demand quite a lot of money, a hefty fee. But I mean, he's a top Championship goalkeeper, and I think that genuinely could be the difference between us trying to get to the sights of third and fourth, and maybe even higher than falling out of the playoffs.
Yeah, they signed him for 900,000 or something like that, didn't they, from Rotherham? Yes, he's regularly in the Championship Team of the Week, so you're going to have to probably cough up a bit there, Will, but it's still a good shout. Jonathan, finally?
Yeah, you know what? I want to back up for Morris is what I want, and Sean's got me thunder already. O'Brien kind of came into my head as well. I think we're lacking steel in the midfield. Hackney and Barlasses aren't defensively minded or as astute as they could be going forward, and Morris clearly is. But we don't have a backup. Howson's good, but he's not playing regular, and I'd like to see a backup for him. And if O'Brien's available, then he's a possibility, maybe.
Okay. Just a quick yes or no to this one. Patrick Bamford is likely to be available from Leeds. Sean?
Not for me.
Will?
For me.
No.
Craig?
Not from what I've heard. A Leeds fan said he hasn't been fit for a year now, so I don't know.
Jonathan?
Full house, no.
Okay, right. That sells that one. Right. Thank you very much, you four. Enjoy the game against Blackburn. Next week on here, we'll look at Middlesbrough's January fixtures. We'll decide the December player of the month, so join us for that. Do drop us a subscribe if you haven't yet done so already. We're delighted. We'll love making this content for you and having 20 minutes of Boro chat. We know there's loads of other great Boro content out there that goes on for 30 and 40 minutes, but ours is just a regular 20-minute weekly chat. Reviewing everything Boro. Thank you, Will, Craig, Jonathan, and Sean. Have a great week. Enjoy the Boro game. Blackburn game, sorry. We'll see you in 7 days' time. Have a good one.